Adam and Eve, God's perfect plan. And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. And the Lord God planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground made the Lord God to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight, and good for food, the tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And out of the ground made the Lord God to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight, and good for food. And God said, Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion. So God created man in his own image, male and female created he them. Scene 4. The deep sleep. And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs, and closed up the flesh instead thereof. And the rib, which the Lord God had taken from man, made he a woman, and brought her unto the man. Genesis 2, 21-22. Adam sleeping under a tree, glowing rib drawn upward by divine light, forming the silhouette of a woman in the radiant air. Scene 5. Woman revealed. And Adam said, This is now bone of my bones, and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Genesis 2, 23. A radiant Ethiopian woman stands revealed. Adam gazes with reverence. Both are clothed in light, royalty, and innocence. Scene 6. 1. Flesh. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. Genesis 2, 24. Adam and Eve walking hand in hand through Eden, united in purpose, love, and harmony. Scene 7. No shame. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed. Genesis 2, 25. A wide view of Eden. Adam and Eve at peace, surrounded by light, leaves, animals, and rivers, without guilt or fear. Scene 8. The temptation. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath God said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden? Genesis 3. 1. Eve stands near the forbidden tree. The serpent, glowing dark and smooth, wraps around a branch above. The lighting dims slightly for tension. Scene 9. The woman saw and took. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof, and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. Genesis 3, 6. Eve looks at the fruit, reaches for it. A soft glow surrounds the fruit. Adam receives it and eats without a word, both suddenly aware of their nakedness. Sen zeche. Eyes were opened, and the eyes of them both were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons. Genesis 3:7. They turn away from each other, covering themselves with large green leaves, sorrowful expressions on their faces. Scene 11. God walks in the garden. And they heard the voice of the Lord God walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord God amongst the trees of the garden. Genesis 3:8. A wind passes through trees. A golden light shines, but Adam and Eve hide behind large trees, fearful. Scene 12. The confrontation. And the Lord God called unto Adam and said unto him, Where art thou? And he said, I heard thy voice in the garden, and I was afraid. Genesis 3, 9, 10. And he said, Who told thee that thou wast naked? Hast thou eaten of the tree? And the man said, The woman whom thou gavest to be with me, she gave me of the tree, and I did eat. Genesis 3, 11, 12. Adam and Eve standing before light, faces ashamed. God's voice is heard, not seen a divine presence in glowing air. Scene 13. The judgment. And the Lord God said unto the serpent, Because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle. Genesis 3, 14. Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. And unto Adam he said, Cursed is the ground for thy sake. In sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. The serpent crawls low. Eve is sorrowful. Adam lowers his head. A storm brews lightly in the distance. So he drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the garden of Eden cherubims and a flaming sword which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life. Adam and Eve walk out of Eden, backs turned. A glowing sword spins behind them. Angels stand in heavenly armor, guarding the gate. End of story. From dust to God's perfect plan,